Just walk away. Just walk away. And then we'll be in the horror.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to MGTOW Chats. I'm your host, Ayam, Sirias. Lamprey is short behind. He will be with us. And our returning guest, is Chris from Red Pill Philosophy. This is round 2. We had him on a couple weeks ago and discussed Flat Earth, and we will do it again today. And this topic is one of my favorites, actually, to discuss because it really gets people riled.
Yep, that's for sure.
All right, so Lamprey, that's you. You're there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Right on, right on. Chris, you're doing okay? How's everything with you?
Yeah, doing great. I'm just excited, ready to maybe learn something new tonight and have a good discussion.
Perfect. Well, let me just kind of quickly check the chats. We got a lot of viewers today, which is great. A lot of new, probably migrating over from your channel, Chris, which is good. The more the merrier. Hope you guys are ready. So what I want to start off with, you guys, is I want to kind of go back over the last couple videos that Chris has produced and put on YouTube. Let me just quickly pull up. One was National Geographic gets humiliated by flat earthers, and the other was Low IQ Simon Dan envies my intelligence. And I want to I just want to pick out a few points, and you can kind of discuss a little bit about it. But one of the ones that I thought was interesting that you brought up, and this is how we'll introduce our Flat Earth talk today, is a little bit of the historicity of it, the history of kind of where the concept of not just the flat, but also the globe Earth comes from. And you mentioned in one of your, I think, was it the National Geographic one? You mentioned, God, what was the guy's name again?
Aristotle.
Do you want to just kind of recap that part for the listeners and for Lamprey?
Yeah, sure. So basically, time and time again, whenever we are told by the establishment and education, government, etc., whenever we're told that we live on a spinning ball, and whenever people talk about the proofs that we live on a spinning ball, one of the go-to answers is, well, the ancient Greeks figured it out 2,500 years ago. And I noticed there was a bit of an error in a lot of the people who are supporting the globe. They like to cite Aristotle as somebody who said, well, ships disappear bottom up as they sail away from you. So that must be because they're going around the other side of a curve. And, you know, I looked it up because I wanted to really see what the hell was this ancient Stone Age man saying about the shape of the Earth 2005. Like, I was like really fascinated. So I decided to go to the source text, and it's from his treatise called On the Heavens, and he talks about his proof that the Earth is a sphere. But unfortunately, there's nothing in the book, in his treatise, about ships disappearing bottom up on the horizon. I looked and I looked and I looked. Finally, I went online and I found that there were other people asking the question, where did Aristotle write that ships disappear bottom up as proof the Earth is a globe? Mm-hmm. And the conclusion on one website, one chat forum where people were going back and forth, was that he didn't say it. He said a few things. He mentioned the eclipses. He mentioned the constellations appearing to disappear behind the horizon as you get further and further away around the globe. But there was nothing actually mentioned about ships disappearing bottom up. So I was like, okay, it turns out that there were a few people, like a couple, 200-300 years later, one dude mentioned something similar, but it still wasn't even exactly ships disappearing bottom up. So not even the people who claim to know the answers are getting the story right. So that was just a funny little thing that I saw. The National Geographic hit piece on Flat Earth completely botched that. As far as my research goes, Aristotle didn't say it. So it's just the typical stuff, because it's the arrogance of the globe model. It's been around for 2,500 years. We've been believing it, passing it down from education to government to institution, family to children, on and on and on. It's just the default assumption about where we live. And so people don't even try to provide actual good arguments, or they even know their own religious fairy tale.
Right. Well, this is the reason I wanted to bring that up. I found that interesting in your video, and I thought that kind of touching on the history of where our ideas come from is kind of fascinating. And this is something I mentioned to you before we came in to the live stream, and I want to share it also with Lamprey and the listeners, because this is something I've known about for a little while, because I've spent a lot of time watching all these other flat Earth people talking about this stuff. And ODD TV put out a video. I'll put a link to it in the low bar later for you guys if you want to check it out. But he put out a video called "Why Do People Believe the Earth is Flat?" And in that video, and I'd heard about this before, but in that video he lists 5 published works, 5 books published between the years 1865 and 1922. All right. One of them is called Zetetic Astronomy. Another is called Is the Bible from Heaven? Is the Earth a Globe? One's called Zetetic Cosmogony. Another's called Terra Firma, the Earth Not a Planet. And another one's called Kings Dethroned. Now these 5 books, there's more out there, but these are kind of the ones that are being tossed around in the flat Earth circles. These 5 books, like I said, were published between 1865 and 1922, and they argued that the Earth was not a globe. So for a lot of people that refuse to question the shape of the world, and they just kind of accept what they've been told, the argument has been going on for a long time. It's as recent as 1922. People were publishing books on this, and that's something you don't learn in school. So it's not as the debate. It's not like some Stone Age man said it was a ball and then we all just fell into line. There were still people arguing it even at the turn of the 20th century. So
what do you think happened? Why do you think the debate seemed to go radio silent for nearly a century? What do you think happened?
My opinion on it is that basically public education in the Western world kind of was bought and sold. It was a takeover of public education. And so honestly, I believe that the real brainwashing of I'll say the Western world, when it comes to the shape of the world we live on, the real brainwashing didn't really start until, the 1920s, when public education was bought and sold. And I'm not an expert on this topic. I've watched a bit of Corbin Report videos, and he does mention that public education back in the 1920s was a target of the Rockefeller family. And that includes K through 12 all the way to post-secondary, where it was like, we're going to shape public education and teach people what they want to learn. And I think,
there's no doubt.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
And I honestly think that's where if you want to go back, honestly, it was our parents. That was that generation. It was the boomer generation that got the real brainwashing. And all it takes is one generation, man. And then you've got everybody. So.
Yeah, the school system, I did a lot of research about the school system a few years ago. There's a great, fantastic book by John Taylor Gatto called Weapons of Mass Instruction. And the book is about the untold history of the modern educational system and how it apparently originated from Prussia. And in Prussia, it was used as a way to turn citizens into obedient units of the state. And that sort of Prussian model of education, from what I've read, was transplanted around the face of the earth. And, what's the results? You get these regurgitation factories where you're, by the mere fact that you have to get a letter grade to pass, you're not in school to question the narrative. You're not in school to question the status quo. You're not in school to question the current consensus. You're there to regurgitate, get your grade, and get the hell out.
Yes.
So they don't really foster an environment there for true critical thinking at the fundamental level, questioning our most deeply held beliefs And then once you get the government involved with public schooling, now there's a public funding mechanism, and now you have the state's interest interwoven with what should be the natural pursuit of knowledge, which is such a special thing. But now the state's got its hands on it. There's a lot of issues. So,
Yes.
it wouldn't surprise me if maybe that's got something to do with why this whole flat Earth debate was basically shut out, and it for nearly a century, and it took the internet actually
Yes.
to give people a voice to actually think critically again without being quote failed.
Yes. No, absolutely, man. I think education is a key point, and history is written by the winners, and what we learn about history in the textbooks when we go to school, it's mostly bullshit, man. It's mostly bullshit. And just to give an example to the listeners, which they can kind of understand from their own experience, is, for example, 9/11. I was, 28 years old, 27 years old when it happened. And I remember watching it. I'm sure all of us here, most of us here, experienced it. But imagine this. What are they going to teach my son about that event in the schools today? Do you think it's going to be honest? Do you think it's going to be critical? I doubt it. And so my point is that a lot of what we believe is shaped and formed through the current education system. And I would like any of the listeners, I will put the link to ODT's video. Check out some of these books, man. They were published in the 1800s, 1900s. People arguing of a flat Earth. This isn't something that disappeared in the Stone Ages and we suddenly all became enlightened. This is an argument that's been going on for a long, long time. And Chris, you're right. The internet was what brought it back.
It's funny. Maybe that's why they teach evolution. They need to think that we were once dumb, like retarded cavemen, so that no one ever thinks that maybe people from 1,000 or more years ago who are actually questioning whether or not we live on a sphere and actually deeply critically thinking where we live, maybe evolution teaching us that we came from monkeys and that it's this progress. We're on this linear progress. We started stupid and we're evolving and progressing, getting smarter and better. Maybe that's why they have to throw evolution into there, because that just further perpetuates the whole heliocentric model, making anybody who thinks the very seemingly elementary notion that the Earth is flat and stationary, because it is elementary in a sense. It's very obvious. It's a very kind of simple observation to make. It's very surface level in a sense, but. So maybe that's part of the reason why. Maybe they want us to think that anybody who questions the shape of the Earth, they're just going back into primitive times, which of course is paradoxical because they literally appeal to the primitive stone people as the provers of it.
Yeah, exactly. You're just a monkey. You haven't evolved yet. You still think the world is not round or not a globe. And part of before the show, I kind of went in to just get some quick research in for the history of it. And the way that it's listed out, if you go onto Wiki, it starts with the Hebrew Bible, and then it progresses forward through Greek history. It mentions Pythagoras, Plato, Aristotle, Archimedes, a lot of these other figures that they point out. And then they get into the Middle Ages and Islamic astronomy. Islamic astronomy was really big. I mean, have you seen the videos of Neil deGrasse saying how all the stars are Arabic names because of the Muslim astronomers?
No, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, he talks about that. But the push for the globe when it comes into the Islamic history of astronomy is that they don't mention in the wiki that the Quran also says that the Earth is flat. So there's a lot of manipulation that's going on when it comes to the history of what people thought, different cultures, different people thought of the shape of the world they lived in. There's a lot of manipulation going on.
No doubt.
Now, I really wanted to just kind of touch a little bit on that history, but to kind of get more into our debate discussion, Lamprey, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Do you want to bring up some of the points you had, which had to do with an engineer?
Yeah, it happens to be Antonio, Brooklyn Monk's brother. He's an engineer for Raytheon, which is like I guess you can call him a military-industrial complex. He's one of the top engineers. He designs satellites, and I actually happened to have lunch with him 2 or 3 days after our last live stream, and I wanted to ask him the questions in regards to flat Earth. I go, can you please help me debunk the concept of flat Earth? And I dropped the comment in Red Pill's comment section. He pinned it, and I'll rattle off his what he had to say in regards to it. I am not a physicist. I am not an engineer. I'm good at science, but I'm not good I'm not good at physics. So for me personally, to debunk flat Earth, I just have to go with just basic observation. So I had to ask someone who designs satellites, who does this for a living, to come up with some plausible questions in regards to the concept of flat Earth. So here's what he had to say. All other planets are spheres. They are spheres because when molten rock cools, it cools in a sphere. If all other planets are spheres, why would you think Earth is any different? So he's asking, Mars is round, Venus is round, Uranus is round, everything else is round. Why would the Earth be flat if the rest of the satellites are round?
Okay. Do you want to let's start there. Let's kick it off with that comment. Chris, you got a response to that?
Yeah, it's incredibly easy to refute that. The logic that's being deployed there is so ridiculously fallacious, and I don't mean it in any offense. I've heard it so many times that it's like, Jesus Christ. I mean, I've almost like saved it so I can copy and paste it to comments every time I hear it, because I've heard it like 1,000 times. But yeah, it's fallacious logic for the very simple fact that it's an appeal to similarity. You're basically saying, well, Mars and Venus and Jupiter and Pluto, everything else is a sphere. The moon is a sphere. So why wouldn't the Earth be a sphere too? It's an appeal to similarity, but the Earth is admittedly, by mainstream science's own admission, the Earth is the one exception in the known universe. It's the only one to harbor consciousness and life. It is the exception. There's nothing like it that we found. You can speculate all day, well, what's in our neighboring galaxy? And no one has, and there's nothing like Earth. So to appeal to Earth, to appeal to everything else in the sky is a certain way, so the Earth must be similar, when the Earth is admittedly absolutely nothing like the barren, desert, lifeless planets they say surround us. It's fallacious logic, and it's an elementary argument that people who are uninitiated to this topic make, and I don't mean that offensively, but I just always get stunned by the sort of the arrogance of the questions. Like, well, did you even think it through? And I'm not saying this to Lamprey, and I guess I'm saying it to Lamprey's satellite friend who posed the question, but it's just like it's just fallacious arguing. It's just fallacious thinking, fallacious reasoning.
All right, so you're saying because Earth harbors life, therefore it obviously is different. And going by the other satellites that don't have life, we're different basically. So we have to be flat.
No, that's a silly simplification. All I'm saying is that the reasoning, the logic being deployed in the argument your friend makes, that reasoning is an appeal to similarity, saying the Earth must be like everything else, but Earth is admittedly like nothing else. That's all. I'm not saying the Earth is different, so it must be flat. No, I'm saying that argument is an appeal to similarity, but the Earth is admittedly, by mainstream science's own admission, nothing like everything else. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that there's a bit of a flaw in the logic of that argument.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, let me just add one part to that caveat to what he's saying and again, I'm sure people that have watched a lot of flat Earth videos, done a lot of research, have heard this sort of metaphor of a comparison for the fallacy that Chris is bringing up. That's basically the fallacy he's saying is like saying if you looked at a pool table and all the balls on the table are round, we must assume that the table is also round, right? And that's been tossed around a lot.
Oh, wait a second, but the pool table is different from the balls.
Yes, exactly. And the Earth is different than the lights you see in the sky.
But the balls are separate from the table. The balls are on the table. Okay, we're just, you can't compare the table to the pool balls. We're talking strictly pool balls, or are we talking strictly table? They're two separate things. There's the guy. Here's a guy playing pool. Therefore, the guy playing pool is different from the balls.
Yeah, but that's the fallacy that he was talking about. The fallacy of similarities, where we have to. It's a fallacy to assume the Earth is round just because there's round things above you. Basically.
And even more importantly than that, because I've heard the billiard ball example many times, and I'm like, that kind of makes sense. But actually, dude, honestly, this is the argument to go with when people say that. It's very simple. They say the Earth is nothing like anything else they've ever found anywhere in the entire universe. Yeah. So stop comparing the Earth to the other barren, spinning, deserted space balls. Like that's whenever people say everything else is like it, so Earth must be like it too. It's an appeal to similarity when Earth is admittedly nothing like it. So yeah, I don't even use that billiard ball thing anymore, right? Because honestly, it doesn't cut to the core enough. The core of the argument is they say Earth is nothing like everything else, but you're trying to say it must be like everything else because everything else is a certain way. So you see, it's kind of like fallacious.
Right. Now, what's some more of the questions that your friend had, Lamprey?
Why does your friend, meaning Red Pill Philosophy, why do you think science is monolithic?
Yeah, monolithic. If I recall from the response that I put in the comments to your posting of your satellite friend's questions, I think I was saying it was monolithic in the context of the first debate we were having. And Lamprey, would you happen to remember where or what context I said that science is monolithic in the first debate? Because I don't really remember what the context was.
Well, he's asking the question is, that it's not an echo chamber with science. There's plenty of other people that can disprove the concept of flat Earth. So why do you think that there's a consensus altogether stating that it's a globe, and the people that are flat earthers are just crazy conspiracy theorists, yada yada yada? When you can have an independent, scientist verify the Earth being round. That's what he meant by it, saying, why do you think it's monolithic?
Yeah, I need to remember the context. I remember the response I put in the comments section. In fact, I'm going to pull it up now. If you can go to number 3 while I'm pulling this up, if you can go to number 3, and I'll answer number 3 in the meantime. I'm pulling this up.
Well, I actually have it up because I never actually saved.
Okay, good. If you can just read probably the first sentence, I'll probably remember what the hell.
All right, hang. As for Satellite Buddy, 8 arguments you've submitted aren't just humiliating. Let me see. 2, 3. Hang on. 5. No shit, science is not monolithic, but the intellectual bandwagons who blindly believe and defend whatever the current consensus happens to be is monolithic.
Okay. All right. Yeah. That's it. It's not that the scientific method is monolithic. It's the people who align themselves with consensus, because consensus is not science. So just because most scientists think we live on a sphere, that doesn't mean shit. I mean, most scientists, God, there's a million examples. What's one example of most scientists thinking something is absolutely true and it turned out to be wrong, and then they had to change the paradigm? There's got to be like a million examples.
Global warming, man.
Oh, yeah, that's an obvious example.
Now it's climate change.
Yeah, 99% of climate scientists agree, so shut up, dissenter. Yes. It's a fucking joke. Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, it's not that science and the scientific method is monolithic. It's that there's people who worship consensus and like to call themselves scientists or fans of science, and all they do is defend the intellectual status quo, whatever happens to be the consensus at this moment. And fine, if you want to appeal to bandwagoning and trends, and like it's like a fad, it's like following a fashion or something. If you want to appeal to what everybody else is doing, bandwagoning, you can do that, but there's got to be some real hardcore scientific proof to back that up somewhere. So that's really what it's about. You can't just say most scientists think it's a globe. So that's my proof. That's
Yeah.
not scientific proof. That's just bandwagoning, status quo worship.
That's the fallacy of the appeal to authority. And
Yep.
it happens a lot. And the example of global warming is a great one because you're right. In social media and in the media circles, their argument is this is their scientific argument for global warming being real. 90% believe, therefore you should too. I mean that is the exact opposite of the scientific method, and they call it science. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. So I do believe, like I like you, Chris. I also understand the scientific method, and I think it's a wonderful method, and it's something that has to be used to kind of understand what we're experiencing in the world we live in. I believe that, but at the same time, I also know that science is it's not a be all end all of reality, and in fact, it is an idea that is practiced by imperfect men. And just because you wear a lab coat and just because you fucking Neil deGrasse doesn't mean you fucking have all the answers. So
It's so true, and I think it casts like a spell, not literally, but like metaphorically speaking, it casts like a spell on people. Like these are just human beings, dude. Like they're just flesh and bones and a brain trying to figure out a very complex world. Yes, admittedly, it is very complex. I know sometimes Flat Earth tries to make things super simple. Look, it looks flat. It's stationary. That must be it. But no, it's actually a very complex freaking world. And we're humans with little, meat in our heads. So I think there's more going on than just the matter in our heads. But yeah, so they but there's an authority that comes with wearing a lab coat. There's an authority with, flaunting, what your credentials are. There's an authority, and I think it almost like casts a spell on people who don't know enough to know if you're even right or wrong. So the uninitiated will just listen to the dude who sounds smart and confident. And people are like, well, he really sounds like he knows what he's talking about. So there's no way he's wrong, right? So I think that does have an effect on what people are willing to believe.
absolutely. And before Lamprey, I want to get into your next question, but before we do, I want to add on to what Chris has just said. It was some notes that I made on the topic. And when it comes to appeal to authority, and it comes to, like you said, somebody that is confident in what they're saying, and Neil deGrasse Tyson is the perfect figurehead for what we're talking about here. I mean, everybody looks up to this guy as like, whatever he says, that must be true. And I wanted to bring this up because this has a little bit to do with the history of our concept of the shape of the world as well. And I've been watching Flat Earth stuff since about 2016, maybe, on YouTube. I've been listening to it, paying attention to it, and it didn't really go big. If you check the Google trends, Flat Earth took off in 2014, I believe. 2014 or 15. Before that, it was nothing. It was just a blip. And then it really took off about 2014, 2015. And about 2016 is when I kind of tuned into it. Now, this again, I'm not trying to make an argument because this is anecdotal. But what I'm saying is that back when I first started looking into it, one of the greatest arguments by globe followers and believers was also anecdotal. And what they would say is, oh, I've been in a plane and I've seen the curve. So therefore it's round. I used to hear that all the time 2 years ago. But isn't it funny, Chris, how things have changed? Because now,
Oh, yeah.
Neil deGrasse has gone on the record in the media and said, you cannot see the curve from 35,000 feet in the plane. You cannot see the curve. And he used the Felix Baumgart jump, the Red Bull jump, as an example. And he said, that curve is from the camera. You cannot see a curve from 128,000 feet. That
Yep.
stuff is flat.
Yep.
And that argument wasn't being tossed around by the intellectuals 2-3 years ago. That, to me, is damage control.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what they were doing. I think as people more and more started to question what the hell we live on, whether or not this ancient presuppositional consensus was true, and then once people started really thinking, they're like, wait a minute, can I actually see the curve out my window? Even though like it was a mass hallucination for decades. Like how many people, how many human beings have lived and died since the advent of airplanes who have flown around the world, looked out their window? How many have lived and died, have gone to their graves thinking they saw the Earth's curvature from an airplane window? I mean, the number must be in the tens of millions or more of people who are like, "Oh, yeah, I saw it on my airplane. Ooh, look, I saw the curvature." Like now, the authorities are saying, "No, sorry, that was a mass hallucination that took place for decades."
Mm-hmm.
Like people like to call flat earthers insane, but we're not the ones hallucinating curvature, dude, by the mass millions. So yeah, that was a devastating concession.
Yeah.
Indirect concession by Neil deGrasse.
Well, and I think honestly, for the listeners, please understand. I believe that is damage control, 100% damage control. There are hundreds of videos that you can look of high altitude balloon footage, amateur high altitude balloon footage, where you don't see a curve, man. At 100,000+ feet, you just don't see it. It's not there. Using a regular camera, not a fisheye lens.
Yep.
So eventually, the powers that be, they had to do damage control and go, okay, well,
I was digging around. I was digging around the other day, and I actually found footage of Felix Baumgartner after he did the jump, saying, "I was really high up, and I can see the curvature of the Earth." Like even Felix Baumgartner, the dude who did the Red Bull jump, even he's on camera saying, "I saw the curvature." Even though Neil Tyson comes out like a year later saying, "Sorry, you didn't see it. You were freaking hallucinating." So that's just humiliating. Oh, and it gets even better. That he said that Felix Baumgartner said that the day before the official jump. That was just his test jump the day before. He didn't even go all the way up in the test jump. He went to 96,000 feet. The real jump was 128,000 feet. So the guy was even lower altitude than the actual jump, and he thought he could see the curvature. He's on camera saying it to the media when Neil deGrasse says you can't see it from 30,000 higher than he was. So yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, what else have you got there, Lamprey? But we can throw at Chris here.
Well, I just want to let Chris know that if it makes you feel any better, my little brother, he's 8 years old and he's studying about the solar system, and I started playing your videos for him, and he's all freaking out and stuff, yelling at my stepmom. How do we know it's really round? It's great.
Oh my God!
My parents want to kill me right now for playing your videos for them.
Well, that's the thing. In my opinion, it only takes one seed to be planted, because that's what they've done to flat Earth for. I mean, as far as
he's freaking out. He won't let it go. It's been a week and a half. I started playing your videos for him, and I just hear him, asking my step grandfather, "How do we know if we're in Antarctica? How come we're not upside down?" He keeps saying.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Release the Kraken.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It only takes a seed planted, because that's how the globe establishment has won this debate, quote, won this debate for God knows how long, by an unyielding ridicule of anybody who questions the globe. So that's why being a so-called, quote, flat earther is one of the most demonized, ridiculed, mocked things you could ever possibly be, even with all the concessions that mainstream science has had to make so far. You got Neil deGrasse Tyson. No, sorry, you were hallucinating curvature. You can't see it for 128,000 feet. You also got Neil deGrasse Tyson saying, oh, it turns out that, the ancient Greek experiment by Eratosthenes, it turns out that that wasn't conclusive proof we live on a globe either. Turns out he only had two wells when, back in ancient Greek times when he did the experiment. And he literally, Neil deGrasse Tyson is on video saying this. He says, oh, he only had two wells. So technically his experiment would work on a flat Earth and it would also work on a globe Earth. Then he had the damage control and say, oh, but if he had three wells though, then the three wells could only work on a globe and not the flat Earth. So, dude, literally Eratosthenes. This is going back 2,000 plus. How many years? I don't know if it's. I think it's like over 2,000 years.
Yeah,
or something.
it's close to 3,000 years ago. It's a long time.
It's insane. So this guy's experiment for 2,000 some years stood as proof of the curvature. And now they're saying, oops, he didn't have enough wells. It actually doesn't prove anything either way. It could be flat, could be a globe.
Yes.
Even with all the devastating concessions, flat Earth is still ridiculed as the dumbest thing you could ever be. And that's how they win, because you can't get people to even ask the question. And that's why living on a spinning ball is the last thing anybody ever questioned. It's so hip and cool to think you might live in a simulation. Elon Musk comes out and says, hey, we all live in a simulation, guys. Smoke some pot. It's so cool to think you live in a simulation. You can question the very fabric of reality itself. But if you say, oh, shit, well, what if this simulation is actually on a flat Earth instead of a globe? Boom, your family disowns you. You get mocked. You get just the worst shit will happen to you. So,
you heretic.
Yes, exactly, you fucking heretic. So,
why aren't you watching the Patriots-Chiefs game right now, asshole? Red pill, go
I
back
know.
and watch a football.
Hey, it's funny. I asked my dad. I'm like, hey, look, it's going to be me and the host here, Ayam, and we're kind of both, big time globe skeptics. And Lamprey's over there. He's just the one dude on the globe side. And I asked my dad, because my dad hates flat Earth and he can't stand it, and it makes him he gets so angry about it because he wants to believe he lives on a ball. So I asked him, hey, come on, come join, come in. Like, we can do it. 2 versus 2. Let's do it. Yeah. And he's like, no, I'm going to watch the football game. So he's actually literally out there watching the game right now.
Yeah.
So, whatever.
He's actually doing it.
Tom Brady, come on, man.
Oh, shit. But no, you're right. Lamprey, we got to get a second Glober on here for sure when we do this stuff.
I am not an authority, nor am I in a place to really dive that deep into it. So I'm not gonna really say too much. I'm more or less want to listen to Red Pill's ideas and basically his philosophy and where he comes from with the flat Earth. Again, I am not a scientist. I am not an engineer. I'm just a simpleton. So I'm open to anything, but I'm not really that open to the concept of flat Earth. That's
absolutely. Yeah, and that's great. This is why we're here. We want to discuss this. We want to toss out ideas, man. I mean, like I myself have kind of like slowly over the last couple of years just looked into it, and when it happened, I don't know. Actually, I'll ask Chris this question after I say this. But for myself, it happened when I was still in Bali. I was my last year in Indonesia. I was still in Bali, and a friend of mine came to visit. The only friend that ever visited me while I was gone, and he just brought it up. He said, "Hey, man, have you looked into flat Earth?" And this was 2015, 2016. And I said, "No, I have not, but I will." And honestly, it didn't upset me. Like, I didn't get angry. I just didn't get angry. I just thought, oh, that's fascinating. You know what? I'm going to do that. And now I'm here today talking with you, Chris, and with Lamprey. Mm-hmm. That was the process. What about you, Chris? Explain a little bit maybe to the listeners now, and then we'll get Lamprey to ask more questions and get back into debate. But maybe explain how you came into it.
Yeah, YouTube actually, which is ironic because now they've decided to go 1984 and censor the shit out of flat Earth. But this was before Trump won, so this was before the elite realized how dangerous it is to let the mere peasants, have freedom of information and freedom of communication. So before Trump won, YouTube was pretty amazing. Like, it was pretty awesome. It was like the wild, wild west of video creation content. And yeah, I was the first video I actually saw was one. I'm pretty sure it was one by this guy named Math Powerland, I think his name is,
Hmm.
and I think he's. I could get this wrong, but I think he was like contracted by NASA or something, and he claims that he was actually hired to paint pictures of planets in space. Like he was actually one of the people hired to quote Photoshop the pictures of space. I hope I got all those details right, but I think that's the essence of it. And he was just making a video. He was doing some kind of stand-up comedy bit at a local little small comedy club, and he was basically going over, everything NASA says is fake, and if they faked the moon landing, and they actually got up high enough to see what the hell they lived on, and it turns out it was flat, and they had it wrong for millennia. What if would they tell you? Would NASA come back down from the moon and say, "Oh shit, guys, we were wrong for 2,000 years. We went up there and it's actually flat. The way it looks, the way it feels, flat, stationary. The way that's all you ever see, no matter how high you can freaking get. Flat, 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 flat. Everywhere you go, flat, 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 flat." Um, so, but this Math Powerland guy, he had a certain style to his comedy where he just sounded like he was trolling, and in my mind, I'm just like, yeah, there's no way this guy actually believes this. He just sounds like a stupid troll. So I just kind of ignored it. But back in the day, YouTube's algorithm was so good that if you watch one flat Earth video, it knows to recommend another flat Earth video, and it just puts you down these endless loops.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I ended up clicking the next video, and I think the one that really got me was by Eric Dubay, and his videos were like, they're just my style, like just the way he goes about it and the way he breaks down why they would lie and how deep it goes and the whole thing. And I was like, huh. I mean, but what about pictures from space? But what about all the geometry experiments? And what about the trigonometry and all this shit that back then, I was just mystified by, because I wasn't initiated enough to know the arguments, to really understand what they meant when they would say, "Oh, but the ancient Greeks, Eratosthenes proved it because of the angle of the sunlight rays coming in parallel into the wells, creating a 7-degree shadow around the curvature of the earth." So, blah, blah, and you just get hypnotized. You're like, wow, smart person saying something smart, must be true. But so I was just mystified by all the authorities telling me that we live on a globe. And so that was in the early stages, but something about it, despite all the evidence to the contrary, there was something about flat Earth that was like, you would hear arguments like, "Oh, you zoom in on a ship, they say it disappeared over the horizon, but you zoom in and it's still there." And now they've moved the globe post, as I like to call it. Now they moved the globe post. They moved it even further. Like, "Oh, no, no, when it disappears out of your eyesight, no, it's not disappearing over the curve. It's just disappearing, like, out of your eyesight. Just get a telescope and zoom in." But then it's like, wait a minute. But you said Aristotle saw ships disappearing bottom up. Did he have a telescope, or was he just using his naked eye?
Mm-hmm.
And how far do you have to zoom in to actually see things disappear over the curvature? And did they have optical instruments back in the ancient Greek days that were powerful enough? So this is just all just bonkers. The whole story doesn't add up. And honestly, that's been the best evidence for flat Earth. The absolutely piss poor trash evidence for the globe.
Yes.
The globe, the proof of the globe is so bad that you can't help but be like, well, it's probably flat then.
Well, that's a good point. Basically, if there was such good evidence for a spherical Earth that we live on, then we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation. It would be obvious, but it's not.
Oh, yeah.
It's not obvious. So that's where we're at. Lamprey, keep going. Let's get some more questions going for the debate. These people, the listeners, are waiting.
Okay. How would a compass work if the Earth was flat?
Yeah, this is a really good one. When you posted it in the comments, absolutely hilarious. So basically, a compass is structured in such a way where you have a flat disc and you have a needle on top of a flat disc. But I'm supposed to sit here and try to prove why a flat disc compass works on a round ball. Like, I think the burden of proof is on you guys to explain to me how a flat disc compass works on a fucking ball, and I'll basically just leave it at that. It's just absurd.
Let me go. Let's what you just said. It means you actually don't know how a compass works, because for him to raise that question to you means he's expecting you to know how a compass works. You understand that, right?
That what the fuck does that even mean?
It means that you don't know how a compass works and he does. And he's raising that question to you, expecting you to know how a compass works, is for you to decipher and to tear apart the argument.
No, I'm just saying that the burden of proof is on the globe people to explain how a flat disk compass is somehow extrapolated onto a sphere, when I'm saying the Earth might be flat and the compass is a flat disk. I mean, why not have a needle that's suspended on some type of three-dimensional axis that actually points down to the South Pole when you're in the North Pole? No, it's a flat fucking disc with a needle in a two-dimensional plane. Like, am I going to sit here and tell you, like, who invented the compass and what are the magnetic processes involved? No, I can't go that deep for you. But I will just straight up say, hey, I think the burden of proof is on the globe side, not on me.
Well, DITR8, deep inside the rabbit holes in the comments, he mentions a compass only works on a flat Earth. The magnet is in the middle. It's that simple. So, I mean, take that for what it is.
Okay. I mean, I can go deep. I can go a little bit deeper on compasses. I'm not an expert on compasses. I just think it's funny how the burden of proof is on me to explain how a flat disk compass works on a sphere. I just think that's absolutely hilarious, and it just gets back to this repeating theme I see, where somehow, some way, they flip the burden of proof. The burden of proof is not on flat earthers. The Earth is obviously and observably flat, to quote Nathan Oakley. The Earth is obviously and observably flat. People hallucinated it at 35,000 feet in the average commercial airliner. No. It's actually flat up there. It's actually flat 4 times as high as that. The Earth is obviously and observably flat. It feels stationary. It looks like everything is revolving around us. Okay, so the burden of proof is not on flat earthers. Just these asshole, not you, Lamprey, I mean the globe elite. These bastards, have somehow flipped the burden of proof through the educational system, through systemic mockery of anybody who questions a spinning ball. They have somehow flipped the burden of proof onto us, which is absurd. The burden of proof is on the globe to tell us why I am currently upside down, why Lamprey and Ayam, who are probably, God knows how far away around the globe you guys are currently oriented probably sideways right now compared to me. Even though if we were live streaming and I could see your face via Skype right now, we both orient our laptops as if we're upright. I mean, how arrogant to push forward the idea that we live on a globe. And people on the other side of the globe are upside down right now currently. How arrogant to push that and to believe that. But when we live chat over Skype video call with each other with somebody on the other side of the globe, we don't orient the freaking person we're talking to sideways. Like, if you really believe in it that much, orient them the way we are. No, we assume that people are all upright on a flat Earth because it's obvious. It's obvious. So no, the burden of proof is not on me to say, well, how the hell do you explain compasses on a flat Earth? No, it's your job. It's not my job. So I mean, I looked into compasses a little bit like 4 months ago. So I mean, but I'm not an expert on it. I'll tell you that much. I am not an expert on it. That's all I can basically say. I mean, if you have something
it's
to say,
fair enough.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't have much. These are just questions raised by a satellite engineer.
Good.
So that's
Good.
all.
One more thing to add on to that is, if you're if the world is a sphere, and you're standing at the very bottom of it, which way does the compass point? That's a question to Lamprey.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was looking into a few months ago. Because I was talking with my dad about it, and he had a moment where he's like, "Holy crap, you're actually making me think here, Chris." But it was, let me see if I can remember the details of what the conversation was, because it was kind of about that. And then I went down a rabbit hole of research, and I found out that compasses are far more complex. Okay. Oh yeah. One of the things was how the compass, how the little needle, there's a red side. Yeah. And the compass, that side is always pointing north. I think from what I researched, I don't know. I don't even think. Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think the standard compass is designed to point to the south magnetic pole. It's
No.
only designed to point to the north magnetic pole, which again is ironic because guess what? There's no south pole on a fucking flat Earth model.
Yeah.
So where are the south pole compasses? Do those exist? They might, but as far as I know, most compasses you have a needle pointing north. It attracts to the north magnetic pole, not to the south magnetic pole. There's no south pole on the flat Earth. So I mean that's just more reason why the compass is a flat Earth thing, not a fucking globe thing.
There's no South Pole compasses, man. There's none. They're all.
Well, there you go. I don't know if they exist. I just know that like
There's none.
the standard stereotype about compasses is that they always point north. You know, they have a little needle. The red side points north. They're not made to point south, as far as I know. I mean, I could be wrong, but so again, that's just more problems for the globe, not the flat side.
Yeah. All right. What else you got there, Lamprey? Let's move it.
Okay. Hang on. Oh yeah, my question with the celestial navigation and the changing of the stars when you change hemispheres.
Oh yeah, don't get me started on that one. That one's really fun. That one's really, really, really fun. Okay, so yeah, so Polaris, right? Polaris, they say Polaris, the North Star. And they say that when you get to the equator, you can no longer see Polaris, or it'll be right there on the horizon. So when you're at the North Pole, Polaris is straight above your head. When you're on the equator, because you're moving around a globe curve, supposedly, Polaris begins to sink down to the horizon. And once you go onto the other side of the equator, to the southern half of the globe, southern hemisphere, Polaris blinks out behind the horizon. You can no longer see it. This is what they tell us. And they say this is only possible on a giant ball that we're all stuck to upside down. And it's like, no, you utter fucking just assholes. And you know, I'm sorry. I hear these arguments so often, and they're asserted with so much just authority to them, so much arrogant authority that it's a bit annoying after a while. But no, what if Polaris appears to descend behind the horizon because of perspective? So you look down a long hallway, and there's a ceiling above your head. And the further away the ceiling gets from where you're standing, the lower it appears in your vision. And so what if Polaris is descending behind the horizon, not because you're going around the other side of a big curve, but maybe because you're traveling across a flat plane, and due to perspective, the star is descending towards the horizon, like a ceiling above your head descends towards the eye level of your sight, the further away it gets. Now, they say Polaris is so astronomically, insanely bonkers far away from us that no amount of movement across the Earth causes any change in the apparent location of Polaris. So you can think of it like parallax, for example. You're driving down a street, and you look out the window to your side, and you see all the trees on the side of the road next to you. They're whizzing by, you know, just super fast. But imagine you have a giant mountain 30 miles in the distance, and that one takes a long time to move by. It's called parallax. The further away something is, the less it will appear to move in your sight as you move. So the globe argument is that Polaris is so far away that no amount of movement on Earth is going to change its apparent location in the sky. Oh, that's a fantastic assumption. So where's the proof that Polaris is so far away? I actually haven't looked at that specific question. What is the proof? How do they know? How do they know it's that far away? I haven't looked into it, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was just more bullshit assumptions.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, again, this is just what we're told, and we're just supposed to accept it because they're scientists and they wouldn't lie to us and they couldn't be wrong. So, yeah, it's that far away. Okay.
It's kind of like the sun, for example. They also say that the sun is so far away that the light rays come in parallel.
Yes.
They say that about Polaris as well. They say Polaris is so far away that the starlight from Polaris, all the rays come in parallel onto the Earth. They say it about the sun, and that's what they have to do. They're always pushing the heavens further and further away from us. They just love to do that. It's almost like they're trying to detach us from something special in the sky. They're always pushing it further and further and further and further and further away, and it conveniently works out for them. It's amazing how convenient it works out for them in the end, because you push Polaris so far away that no amount of movement on Earth is going to change its apparent location in the night sky. So now you can say, oh, well, as it begins to disappear behind the horizon, that must be because we live on a sphere and the sphere's getting in the way. So now you got people thinking they live on a sphere. But now you also, which in my opinion, there's so many reasons why why they would lie to us about that. I mean, number one, let's say we live on some kind of a flat plane. Let's say there's more land to explore that we don't know about, that they don't tell us. Mm-hmm. If there's more land, well, maybe there's a reason they want to hide more land, more resources from us. If there's an edge and you can't get past it, and there's a dome or some kind of invisible barrier, like you would see in a simulation or a video game, which Elon Musk says we probably live in a video game. So the notion that there might be an invisible barrier or a dome at the edge of the flat Earth is really not that crazy. It's not crazy at all. If you get to the edge and you find out there's an edge, some kind of impenetrable, invisible barrier you can't get out of, then that's like seeing God face to face. It's like seeing the creator of this simulation reality. It's like coming face to face with that. So maybe that's another reason they want to hide it. So you tell us we live on a globe. No, there's no edge or there's no more land. So everybody stays put. No one cares to go. If you don't, the only way to get off and explore is to get in a fucking rocket ship. And who the hell wants to do that? It's like 5 astronauts in every generation actually crazy enough to get in a rocket ship and go that high. So now you got people staying put, not exploring, not being curious in a truly, truly deep way. Mm-hmm. But also pushing Polaris so far away, you've also detached people from the heavens, from the celestial bodies, which are a beautiful nightly display. You know, it's funny. We always think of heaven as being above our heads. It's just the way we are culturally ingrained to think where heaven is. We think it's above. We think hell is below. But on a globe, heaven is not really above your head, because up, you know, it wouldn't be up for everybody on a globe, heaven. So they push the heavens away. They push all these beautiful things away. It's just detaching us further and further from, you know, I would argue they're probably trying to detach us from the fact that we are created by some type of intelligent thing, not a god, and I'm not even talking about Christianity, just some type of intelligent thing created us, and that there's more to this reality than the material stuff that meets the eye. And there's so many reasons why they'd want to hide that from us, especially when you start to realize that it seems like most of the die-hard globe defenders are like atheists, and these guys are so creepy, man. Like, they just love, talking about 666 all the time. I always see they're always like 666, 666. They're obsessed with it. And atheists are always like, side by side with Satanists, and we know Satanists don't like God. So yeah, it just makes you wonder. But
what you were talking about with the stars and the distances, I want to pose a question to Lamprey. You there, Lamprey?
Yep.
Here's a question to you. Do you know what star trails are?
No, I don't think so.
When you take a camera and you have an open shutter and you face it directly at the sky and you film for a few hours with
yes. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Go on, yes.
All right, so those are star trails. So what happens every single time this occurs, you take a camera, full exposure, opened exposure, allow it to film for a few hours, and what you get is what they call star trails, and it's a circular pattern. Every time you'll see it. If
they look like shooting stars.
No. The photograph after it comes out, after that long exposure, is these circles of stars going around. Let me just find a quick picture of it so I can show you.
Let me ask you, Red Pill. If the Earth is flat, what are you? If you were to find out the Earth is flat, what benefit is it to you if it is true? Like, what do you get out of that? What do you do with that knowledge now that the Earth is flat?
That's a good question. I've thought about it recently, and it makes me think why they might be faking space and space travel and the grand human adventure to explore beyond. sometimes I wonder if that's the reason they push this, what could be this potential heliocentric spinning space ball belief system. I start to wonder sometimes if the human desire to expand and grow and go out further and explore, this insatiable desire to never just sit still and be grateful for what is as it is. I'm starting to wonder if that's what space is, man. Maybe it's just, it's like an ancient thing, like, oh, we live on this earth. Maybe one day we'll be able to go to the stars and reach out and expand. And man, if that's a tendency in human nature to want to go out and never-ending exploration, um, God, it's going to be a really tough pill to swallow to think that fuck, maybe there's a boundary and we
Yeah.
can't get out, and this is it. And I think it focuses your attention back onto yourself in a sort of like, this is how I felt sometimes when I think about this whole flat earth thing, and I start to ask myself, man, what if this flat earth shit is true, man? What if there is an edge, and what if it was created by some type of force, some intelligent thing? And I'm like, man, it does something to me where I feel like my attention is being diverted back onto myself. I become very self-conscious, but not in like a negative, insecure way. Just like, it's just like, man,
A
like,
purposeful way.
in a purposeful way, and it's just, it gives a significance to this little place we live on that Carl Sagan's pale blue dot fucking absolutely fails. Because that's the thing. It's like Carl Sagan's like, this famous atheist dude. He's like, yes, you are just a pale blue dot. That's what Earth is, a pale blue dot in a massive universe of infinitude with billions of other galaxies, and you don't matter. There's life everywhere else. You're just a little pale blue dot, and that's supposed to give people inspiration. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna feel good that I'm just a speck of dust that exploded out of a big bang for no reason. Like, I can't even believe that ever passed. For like, you're gonna get a tear in your eye because of how beautiful Carl Sagan's bullshit is. And by the way, Carl Sagan absolutely humiliated himself post mortem because he did a episode of his famous show Cosmos,
Yeah.
on Eratosthenes' two well experiment from ancient Greek, and Carl Sagan is on video saying, well, he did his two wells, and based on the observation with the shadows and the two wells, the only explanation is the Earth is curved. And then fast forward 20 some years, Neil deGrasse Tyson, like a year ago, he said, oh, turns out two wells isn't enough. There's an other explanation. The Earth could also be flat if you only have two wells. You need a third well. So just another humiliating heliocentric defeat. But yeah, so Lamprey, man, that's one thing I've been thinking about is like, what benefit doesn't bring me? Honestly, it doesn't really bring me any benefit. At first, it gave me anxiety. I would, like a year ago when I was seriously like, man, I was new to this. I'm like, that kind of gives you a bit of anxiety, but you get over it. You get over it, and I don't. It doesn't really give me a benefit. It's just like, well, if that's what's actually true, and we claim to be a society that's interested in the truth, and science claims to be interested in the truth, well, if it's true that we live in some type of flat, obviously created reality, then I think it definitely changes how you view the world, how you view yourself, how you view others. I definitely think it has a deep, deep impact. And of course, the exact opposite of being created is this Big Bang blowing up out of an explosion for no reason. We're just evolution monkeys. They're two completely opposite worldviews. It's almost fascinating to me how opposite they are. You'd think they were two camps at war with each other, with how opposite these two worldviews are. And the way I see it is, one of them's got to be right, and I think I know which one is full of shit.
It's funny, Lamprey, because I was actually planning on asking you that exact same question, and I think I wanted to ask a lot of people who are, let's say, skeptical about the flat condition of the world we live in, or people that believe it's a globe. I wanted to ask the exact same question, like, because people get upset. They get angry. If you look at the comments that have been passing through in our conversation, there's a lot of people that are really angry, man. And I wanted to pose that exact same question to the globe believers. If you found out that the Earth was not a globe, it was flat, and there's no space you can travel to, there's no planets out there you can travel to, you're in an enclosed area, you can go so far, and that's it. If you found out that was true, how would it affect you?
It wouldn't affect me. You know, the reason why I never really researched the concept of flat Earth is because it doesn't affect me in my daily life. What does affect me in my daily life is why the government and Google want me to wear high heels, and they're going to force that upon the rest of every fucking man on this planet. That's more important to me.
Right. So you're talking about the importance of the issue to you personally.
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be the global tranny agenda. It's just things that are going to affect me now and for the rest of my life. The Earth being flat is not going to affect me in my lifetime.
Lamprey, could I ask you really, really quick? You say it won't affect you. It won't make a difference. Is that because the Earth is obviously and observably flat?
Well, look, if the Earth is flat and it turns out to be flat, then everything's off the table, basically. Just throw everything out, everything that's been built. I don't really know. I don't know what would come of that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's what Owen Benjamin said in a recent live stream, because he's been wrestling with flat Earth. I don't know if you guys heard about it. But
Yes.
I started listening to Owen Benjamin. I told Ayam to subscribe to him. He's funny. I like him. He's pretty cool.
Have you heard his stuff about like his rummaging over flat Earth and whether or not it's true? Have you heard that stuff?
I did. Yeah, I did. I listened to a little bit. He's fun, man. I think he's a cool guy.
Yeah, it's funny to watch him. It's really crazy, but yeah, I just
He's
find
very on PC. He doesn't give a fuck. He just throws it all out there. Like right off the bat, he just starts attacking. He goes, "Listen, guys, don't let them get you down." And when I mean them, I mean Jews. The first 30 seconds into the live stream, he's playing his piano. Don't let them bring you down. It's great.
It's fantastic, yeah.
And he rips on everybody. He just lets everyone have it. Seth Rogen, Jordan Peterson. He just unleashes on everybody.
Joe Rogan.
Yeah. Hey, you guys.
I absolutely love because Joe Rogan is just like I call Joe Rogan king of the fake woke.
Yeah, absolutely, he is. Yeah, I think we might have brought this up the last time we talked, but there was a Joe Rogan video. You guys can go try and find it, of him basically saying, "I'd sell my mother, to NASA," or not. That's not the exact quote, but basically saying like, "Yeah, give me the money and I'll tell you. I'll say whatever you want me to say." That's Joe Rogan.
See, I found it really interesting, Lamprey, when a moment ago, when Ayam asked you, "Hey, if it turned out to be flat, would it make a difference?" And I just find it funny, Lamprey, that you're like, "Yeah, it would make a difference." And I'm like, how would it not make a difference that the literal shape of the Earth you stand on is completely different? Like, if it was flat and it's the complete opposite shape of the one they tell you live on, you'd think that would have a cataclysmic effect on life. Like, the literal ground you walk on is not the shape they've been telling you it is. It's a completely different shape. Like, you think skyscrapers would crumble and come crashing down and institutions would completely fall apart. But it's because, shout out to Nathan Oakley, the Earth is obviously and observably flat. It's all we feel, it's all we experience, it's all we see. So I just think it's ironic when you say it won't make a difference if it turns out it's flat.
Right.
Maybe that's because it's already flat.
Yeah. Hey, can I go back to my question about star trails for lamprey? I shared the screen with you, Lamprey. Can you see it? On Skype, I shared the screen. Both of you guys should be able to see the screen I'm sharing. You see that?
Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah, I seen that
So
before, yeah.
these are star trails. Let me just quickly share it with the listeners just for a second so they can see what I'm talking about. Okay, guys, this is what I'm talking about. So these are star trails. Now, These types of pictures are created by having a camera and have it be overexposed over a period of hours at night to watch the movement of the stars. Now, what happens from these trails, as you can see, are these circles. And guess what's at the center of the circle? Right there. What is that? Lamprey, what's at the center of the circle?
It looks like a black hole.
That's Polaris.
Okay.
So Polaris is at the center of the, because it doesn't move. Polaris is at the center, and all the other stars and wandering stars, so-called planets, are what we see of the trails around it. Okay, this is a observable, repeatable phenomenon that anyone can go out and do as an experiment, and you will come up with the exact same photograph. Now, if regardless of the distance of parallax, if this is what we see every time we do this experiment, how do you explain the globe model if in the globe model it says that the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles per hour at the equator, we are spinning around the sun at 66,000 miles an hour, and the sun itself is spinning around this great attractor at nearly 1,000,000 miles an hour? Those speeds are incomprehensible. We can't even comprehend that kind of speed. But this is the movement that the heliocentric model is telling us to believe. If that is true, if that heliocentric model is true, why do these star trails exist? Because if we're making that kind of movement all the time, there is no way we would see this perfect concentric circles. It would be maniacal. The pictures would be incredibly insane and out of control. It wouldn't be these perfect concentric circles. Explain that to me. Lamprey.
You asking me to explain it to you? Well, at first, the Earth spins at 43 miles per hour.
No, at the equator, it's 1,000.
Okay. I don't know enough about these topics to to formulate an opinion.
All right.
So I'm not gonna sit here and sound like an idiot. I'm not gonna do it.
You don't have to sound like...
Again, when we let's go back to and we discussed this 2 or 3 live streams ago in regards to where we get our information from. I'm not a physicist. I'm not an engineer. I don't have a PhD. I barely got a bachelor's and undergraduate. Okay, I didn't study. I never opened a book throughout all my years of college, and I still managed to pass with a high GPA. Thank God. I don't know how I did that, but again, perhaps our education system's getting watered down. Blah blah blah. Whatever that might be. But again, education it's authoritarian because Ayam, do you know how to fly an airplane?
No.
Okay, why not? You should know how to fly an airplane. You know all this about Polaris and red pill philosophy. You know so much about flat Earth. So, if you study it, watch a couple YouTube videos on how to fly an airplane, you should be able to go out and fly an airplane. Why not? I mean, you watched it, you did a crash course, I'm not taking a shot at you or red pill, but this is a shot at anybody who thinks they're an authority on a certain subject. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Do you think
don't know these things?
Do you think anyone can be an authority on a subject?
If you study it, if you stay disciplined, okay? If that's your niche that you want to, you have to there's people in this fucking room. I can't really speak.
It's all right.
Hang on. I don't know how to fly an airplane. I can watch simulations on YouTube. I can read some PDFs and get books on it. But at the end of the day, I have to put these things into practice. So, for example, with flat Earth, okay, I think the Earth is round. Yes, I do. There are 3,500 naval captains who have a gross tonnage license over 100. Therefore, there's 3,500 American citizens who can theoretically take a boat and go around the Earth. He can circumnavigate the globe on a boat. Okay, versus let's say moon landing. where there's only been 12 people that landed on the moon. It's a little bit harder to prove that we landed on the moon versus flat Earth. You see what I'm saying?
You can circumnavigate east to west on a flat Earth. North to south is a totally different story, and there's a lot of bizarre shit going on with north to south circumpolar navigation. I'll give you the best example. There's a YouTuber who's a flat Earth debunker. His name is Greater Sapien, and a few months ago he raised like $20,000 from his viewers to take a flight around the poles, from north to south, around the poles. As you know, the mainstream flat Earth model, there is no south pole. It's just an ice wall around the end. But on the globe, you should be able to fly north to south around the poles. Dude raises $20,000. He's, in a video, he's like, yeah, we're going to debunk them. We're going to debunk flat Earth. This is going to be great. Ha. I'm going to take a bunch of instruments and instruments on the flight so I can scientifically analyze that we're actually going around the poles. And then, like 2 months before the flight, a little disclaimer suddenly pops up on the bottom of the airline company that was hosting the flight. And the little disclaimer says, notice, it has come to our attention that some people are using this flight to question science. We are not allowing any scientific instruments on board this flight for the safety of the passengers. We hope you understand and thank you. Something along those lines, right? So I was like, okay, that's funny. So you're going to fly around the poles, but you're not going to let anybody actually closely analyze, maybe with like GPS or a compass, all types of instruments. You're not going to let them really analyze closely. Okay, whatever. It's the safety of the passengers, right? Then, like a couple months after that, the dude, the Greater Sapien YouTube guy, releases a video saying, basically, I don't know where the airline company went. They disappeared. They took the $20,000 and they vanished. And that was the last I heard an update from his YouTube channel. And it was it was like humiliating, and I think even he described it as a high profile failure or something. So it's like, okay, yeah, we're gonna go prove we live on a globe, stupid ass flat earthers. We're gonna circumnavigate north to south, easy squeezy lemon peasy, and then it turned out to be a scam. They took the money. Like, that is irony you can't write in a movie. You can't even make that shit up. So in regards to circumnavigation, east to west, easy on a flat Earth. North to south, there's no South Pole. You can't do it.
This becomes greater as you get closer to the equator, though.
But, yeah, I mean, that's not an issue, man. It's not an issue. It's not an issue. In fact, there's something called the azimuthal equidistant map projection. That's the mainstream flat Earth map. Is actually just a globe but flattened out, so that Antarctica gets stretched around the edges and you got the North Pole in the middle. So literally, the flat Earth map is basically just the globe but squashed. So as far as I know, most of the latitudes and longitudes, they can pretty much work just as easily on a flat. There's no reason that the flat Earth can't just be greater distances at the equator, as you said. There's just no reason why it couldn't be. There's just no reason. But so I mean, you were saying just a little nugget there.
I got all right. But the thing is that, and me and Ayam have discussed it, is that education and knowledge is in fact authoritarian, right? Now, obviously, we can question those who are telling us lies, climate change and amongst other things, but the issue is that you have to. Sorry, my little brother just walked in.
All right.
The future flat earther.
Yeah, there he is. Hey, wait, let me tell him, Jonathan. I'm talking about the Earth being flat. He's saying it's not flat now. Stop listening to your teachers. It's all a lie.
Oh God. You're corruption, man. You're a corrupter.
Sorry. Okay. Again, education is authoritarian. For example, at my job where I work, I like to make more money. In order for me to make more money, I have to reach a certain level of knowledge within my job. I don't know enough about my job to get to where it is I want to be. I have to keep working at it, keep going to work, stay disciplined, read more books, get more licenses, yada yada yada. You know, if there's certain questions about my job that I don't know, I ask my employer, who's 15 years to my senior, and he has the knowledge. Because again, he's my boss. He's older. He knows more about these things than I do. Same thing with, like, again, maybe flat Earth or the Earth being round or whatever it might be. And I think the problem with the internet, and again, me and Am discussed this a couple of live streams ago, is that it's become it's just throwing shit on a wall, and whoever sounds the most educated or most knowledgeable, or the one wearing a lab coat, we just gravitate to those, even though perhaps they're completely batshit fucking crazy. You know?
And it's kind of an argument against the globe, because I mean, you're basically saying, you can't really trust anybody, and the metric of truth is not whether somebody sounds persuasive or not. It's whether or not it holds up to scrutiny, whether or not it holds up to scientific method. So. I'm
a much more pragmatic thinker. That's just me. Am's much more spiritual. I'm learning a little bit more about, religion and being more connected with other ideas and things like that. But, I'm going to listen to a satellite engineer versus a flat earther. I'm just sorry. That's just how it is. I'm going to listen to a 65-year-old who makes $250,000 working for a multi-billion-dollar company. That's just it. Period.
What happens if you meet a satellite engineer that tells you the Earth is flat?
I would never meet someone like that. So
it doesn't exist.
I bet they exist. I mean, there's airline pilots. There is naval officers. There's engineers, and of course, there's many more of them who won't say anything because of the authoritarian consensus of worship that you just said you're a fan of. Because people do not want to be ridiculed simply because you're not part of the majority. You're not part of the establishment. So look, Lamprey, if that's how you want to look at things, that's how you want to, treat your pursuit of truth, whether or not the smartest person says it or the smartest looking person says it or whether or not the majority say it, go ahead. But unfortunately, throughout history, that resistance to new ideas, simply because it sounds too good to be true or too hard to believe, is the reason that, there's paradigm shifts. There's a reason that throughout the history of science, you have paradigms that are taught, people think are true and infallible, and inevitably, with enough time and enough generations coming and going, a new paradigm comes in as the old realizes that it cannot stand up to the scrutiny. So look, I mean, I'm not gonna say I respect you for that kind of thinking, because I just find that to be just it's literally the opposite of critical thinking. You're just looking up to authority figures and saying, well, if the people in power say it, then I'm going with them.
He is an authority because he's taken the time to study, to master a specific area. And for you to come in and piss on his work and what he does, I think you are the stupider one. I'm listening to a 65-year-old man with PhD. Now, you can laugh all you want, but people like him have
What about the 2,500-year-old man called Eratosthenes that Neil deGrasse Tyson says actually got it wrong? He didn't have enough wells to prove the shape of the Earth. That is an authority figure getting thrown in the trash can by the modern day establishment because they can't even hold up their own heliocentric belief system to the scrutiny. So look, I mean, that's the way you want to go, and that's the way you want to do it. That's fine. I mean,
someone that's been dead for 2,000 years versus someone I had lunch with 2 weeks ago.
That's not the point. The point is that he has been being taught as actual, undeniable, irrefutable truth that the Earth is a sphere for the last 2,000 years. That's what they've been saying. It's been put into the textbooks. National fucking Geographic. Well, they actually didn't mention Eratosthenes. They mentioned Aristotle, but that's full of its own issues too. The point is it's an appeal to authority, and authority almost, not always, but authority sometimes it gets chopped down.
You're talking about people who designed the communication system that we're using right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't really understand. You know what? It's not real. It's not real. Fuck it.
Well,
That's an
These cell phones,
oversimplification.
forget these cell phones.
No
Forget
one's
everything.
saying it's not real. No one's saying it's not real.
The authorities who design these things. Do you understand where I'm? I don't understand where you're going with this, because I'm trying to show you that, hey, look, there's a guy who designed a cell phone. Here's a guy that designed a satellite. Here's a team of people that have made these things for us all to enjoy.
Listen, bro, it's not little old me saying that there's problems with the heliocentric model. It's Neil deGrasse Tyson conceding like crazy that they've been wrong about shit. Conceding about how high you can see curvature from. Conceding that Eratosthenes, the ancient Greek who did the experiment, saying that he got it wrong, even though it was taught as dogma doctrine for 2,000 years as proof of the globe. So
science is always wrong. They constantly.
Well, that's my point. That's my point.
Yeah, one more thing I'd like to add to that too, guys, is that there are actually self-proclaimed flat earthers, quote-unquote flat earthers, who are pilots, who are engineers. So your appeal to authority in that sense of the argument doesn't really work, Lamprey, because there are your engineers that do believe.
There was one engineer. There was one engineer.
Speak to one. I'd love to hear someone like that.
Look this guy up. This guy's on YouTube. What's his name? His name is Balls Out Physics with Brian Mullen. Is that his name, Brian Mullen?
I think so.
Okay.
But he had a series a couple years ago on YouTube called Balls Out Physics. He's a qualified engineer, a working engineer, credentialed, degreed, and everything. And he was making YouTube videos saying, holy shit, this isn't adding up. The Earth might be fucking flat. There's like no proof we live on a spinning ball. And guess what happened? What happened was poor Brian Mullen deleted his YouTube channel. Poor Brian Mullen went radio silent. Poor Brian Mullen disappeared off the face of the internet because somebody called his boss. Mm-hmm. Someone saw he was making videos questioning the authorities. And they're like, this guy says he has an engineering background and he works in engineering. But if you think the Earth is flat, then obviously you're a danger in the world of engineering. You might not be licensed. Maybe you haven't updated your license. So someone called his boss and then had a talk with him. And guess what? The boss talked to Brian and said, you got to stop doing this flat Earth stuff. That's what I heard the last about Brian. And it's just a great example of, most authorities and most people think the Earth is round. Yeah, and how many people like Brian keep their fucking mouths shut because they're afraid of losing their jobs? So how many people actually really believe it? They think it's round.
Yeah, absolutely. Always back to money. There's no doubt about it. Me and Ayam discussed that the rise of intellectualism was because of money. I mean, governments, kings started sponsoring people like Columbus. All the great scientists, Tesla, for example. Edison. Prior to the medieval times and during the medieval times, most of these people that we discuss now did it not for money. They did it because they felt that there was a wrongdoing, there was an injustice. So they went out of their way against, the authority, which would have been the church at that time. And a lot of them got killed for their beliefs, so they had to be silenced. No doubt about it.
Hey, there was a great comment in the chat by Jose Meza. He says, Red Pill Philosophy, send Lamprey to Dr. John D. He has a PhD in spectrophotometry, which I think is basically like, studying light. Yeah, Dr. John D. He's a PhD, and he's been doing long-distance zoom observations to see if distant buildings are hidden by the Earth's curvature. Guy has a PhD in spectrophotometry, and he's legit as fuck, and he releases like 2-3 hour long videos that are hyper technical, and I mean it doesn't get any more scientific and unbiased and objective than what he's doing, and he absolutely destroys the globe model. So that's one PhD. He has a fucking YouTube channel. So yeah, I recommend.
What's his name?
Dr. John. I think maybe Dr. John D. Is his YouTube channel name.
Do you mean
he's
Dr. John D.
Yeah, he has a few videos doing long-distance observations. PhD in spectrophotometry, and he had a back and forth recently with Mick West. Mick West is like, the go-to flat Earth debunker guy. He's been on Joe Rogan's podcast. He was on Joe Rogan's old show called Question Everything on Sci-Fi Channel, Mick West. And Mick West loves to, quote, debunk flat Earth. And Dr. John D had extensive back and forth emails with Mick West. And Dr. John D, PhD in spectrophotometry, came to the conclusion that Mick West is full of shit and he's not being completely upfront with this debate over these Zoom tests. And so there's that. So I mean, yeah, I mean, there are plenty of people who are very smart and, quote, credentialed and qualified, but a lot of them have to shut their mouths because who wants to lose their job? Who wants to get ridiculed? Who wants to invalidate their degree?
Yeah.
And so yeah.
I found one video. Sorry, I just said I found one video. PhD confirms flat Earth. Dr. John D. On a 7th issue. I'll put it into the notes and people can look at it on their own. Anyway, go ahead, Lamprey.
No, that goes back to it. The monolithic question is that there are scientists who can disprove flat Earth without actually getting paid to do it. That was more or less what he's trying to get at with the whole concept of science not being monolithic.
Yeah. Did you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even sure I ever hinted to that. Of course, there's people who can do science and not be paid. I mean, of course. Yeah.
No, Lamprey, did you see? I was sharing the screen just a minute ago. I'll do it again so you can see. I wanted to show you the azimuthal equidistance map, just so you can see it, because I don't know if you've kind of looked at that as the kind of popular model that is used by flat Earth. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Sorry?
I say it.
Okay, yeah. So anyway, I'm sorry, I was just backtracking a bit, but Chris brought this up about the shape and the map, but that's it. So you can see the equator there. You can see the equator, you can see the Antarctica, you can see the North Pole. But that's basically the general understanding of what flat Earth looks like. And I think most people in the chats or who is watching probably know this, but I'll share the screen anyway and show quickly. So there it is. Anyway, you got another question for Chris?
Let me take a look here. I actually X'd out of that video. Let's see what else I wrote down.
Hey, shout out to Lamprey for coming in here and just, I understand you don't even look into this topic as much as I do. You probably don't. I mean, you said you don't really, find the topic too interesting. So I just want to say shout out to Lamprey for having the fucking discussion, man, because I'm not going to lie. I probably studied this.
I know absolutely nothing about it.
Yeah, there you go, man. That's all good.
45 minutes worth of YouTube videos and having a conversation with you.
It's all good, man. It's all good.
I fish, therefore I know. Okay, that's a shout out to Ayam. No, but in all seriousness, I fish and I see the boat disappearing on the horizon. For me, that's about enough. On top of the authoritarians tell me that the Earth is round, I'm quite satisfied with knowing. I'm satisfied with knowing the Earth is round. To be quite honest with you, the other thing is the polar route. AM disagrees on the polar route. When I fly to Cambodia, and I will be doing that in another month, is that they take the polar route. They go up through Canada, pass Alberta, shoot over Alaska, come down the Kola Peninsula, then fly over, Japan, and I land in South Korea. Then from South Korea, I go to Cambodia.
Yeah.
What do you say about that?
Well, here, let me bring up that flat Earth map again, and I'll show you exactly how that route takes place on a flat Earth, because obviously on a globe you already understand how that would work. But let me just share it again, and I'll share it with the viewers as well. Okay, so I'm sharing the screen on Skype. You should be able to see that map. I will share on OBS. We're good. All right. So basically, can you see the map now?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So here's New York, right? You see that? Lamprey?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's New York. You're flying across Canada, over Alaska, and bang, you're here. Right there. Straight line. Easy route. No problem. When I fly from Canada to Indonesia, same thing. Or LA. It's a straight route past Alaska. Bang. There's Indonesia. Okay? And look, there was an article a few years back about an emergency landing from a flight from Bali to Los Angeles. And that is a flight I have taken 1,000 times. Well, not 1,000 times, many times. LA to Indonesia, either Bali or to Jakarta. And that flight is a straight line right here, past the pole, and you hit Indonesia. Now, during that flight, a woman was pregnant. And the plane had to make an emergency landing because this woman was going into labor mid-flight. Now, on a globe, you fly this way. You see the curve like this. You fly around this way. Guess where the emergency landing took place? Lamprey.
Where?
Alaska.
You landed in Alaska.
Yes.
Yeah.
On a globe, you're fucking way far away from Alaska. But on a flat map, you go right past it. So I just wanted to point that out as far as, talking about the shape of the Earth. There's your flights. Do yourself a favor, pull out this flat Earth map and then map all your flights out and see how they work geographically compared.
Hey, I am.
Yeah.
If I share my screen, is that all right?
Yeah. Go ahead. Let me just stop sharing mine. Okay, you can share yours.
I wanted to respond to something you said. I am about not I am Lamprey. What you said about ships disappearing bottom up. I want to show you something here real quick.
I've been watching your videos on that. Trust me.
Did you see the one with a little boat diagram I made?
Yeah, I see that in the Skype chat.
You can share the screen, and I'll share it with the viewers if you want.
Yeah, I will do that real quick. I don't want to be redundant because Lamprey has seen it, but let me do that real fast here, just for anybody who's new in case they're interested. Let me see. How the fuck do you share screens on
There should
Skype?
be a plus button there, more options.
Yeah. Share computer sound. No need to share.
Probably don't need
screen.
sound, yeah. All right, so I can see it now. I'm going
Okey-dokey.
to. I'll share with the general public now. Give me 1 second here. All right, you're being shared.
Okay. Well, Lamprey seems to have already seen it, but this is what I've heard fairly recently. So I decided to mock this up here, little diagram. So yeah, the average person, even National Geographic the other day when they spoke about Aristotle seeing ships disappear bottom up, they had Aristotle standing on the shoreline. Because the ship is much bigger than the person, their eye line is below the midpoint of the ship's height, and naturally there's a smaller angle to the bottom of the ship than there is to the top of the ship. And as a result, smaller angle, meaning the ship is apparently smaller in your vision as it goes away than the top of the ship. And when things get too far away and too small, your eyes can no longer resolve them. There's not enough pixels. So naturally, the part of the ship that is apparently smaller due to angular size is going to disappear first. And that's a pretty sound explanation in my view for how things can disappear bottom up. So I just wanted to spit that out there because I'm actually kind of proud of this. Like, I thought it was really fucking cool that I made this. But anyways.
Yeah, no, I saw it too. It was good, man. The angular resolution and the limit of our vision is something that people don't think about when they are talking about this subject.
There's a guy, his YouTube channel is Life is Short. He did a 3.5 hour. In fact, I'm going to nab the link up. I actually have the tab open now because I've been rewatching it a few times because it's fantastic research. But
send it in Skype and I'll share it.
Yep, about to send it. And he did a 3.5 hour presentation on how the rate at which things disappear bottom up due to the way vision and our eyes work very closely matches the rate of the Earth's alleged curvature. And so when you get to the point where the Earth's curvature matches the rate at which things disappear bottom up simply due to the way your eyes work, you're getting to the point where this is obviously a deliberate deception. This isn't just a mistake. Somebody figured this math out, God knows how long ago, and they hijacked, to use a Nathan Oakley term, they hijacked perspective, they hijacked angular size, and they wrapped it around a globe. So yeah, for me, that's like, if this turns out to be true, and to be fair, I don't fully understand this angular resolution argument, because again, it's a 3.5 hour hyper-technical presentation. It's like there's so much to freaking learn. I'm not going to claim that I understand this little nugget. But if this turns out to be true, then this is like the best proof for me that makes me 100% flat Earth, because I'm not 100% flat Earth yet, but I get closer every day.
Wait, let me ask you something. How old are you?
I am 31.
Did you ever? Okay, so me and you're the same age. Did you ever think about maybe going back to school to learn more about this this stuff?
Why would I go massively into debt to learn something I can get for free on the internet?
You don't have to. You want to go to community school.
Well, I just go on the internet. It's called the internet. It's great thing.
Well, the internet, anybody can throw shit on the internet.
Yeah, and I can go to school and learn how trannies are taking over and they're good, right?
I honestly, post-secondary education today is, it's so fucking horrible.
If you take STEMs, it's not. Yes, if you take sociology, obviously that is going to be the case. But if you still go into engineering and science and math, it's not, it's not going to happen.
Who knows? Maybe the globe and the heliocentric model is the SJW propaganda of the sciences. Who knows?
Yeah. I wouldn't trust it. I certainly wouldn't trust it. I think a lot of us can count our blessings if we managed to go through post-secondary in the past and came out with a critical mind. Count our blessings if that still exists, because I feel real bad for the next generation that are going to get put through that mill,
Yeah, they have no choice. They got to do it. There's no trade schools or anything.
There's a lot less, yeah.
Yeah, there's actually somebody in the chat. Shout out to Sleeping Warrior. Guy's a legend in this whole flat versus globe debate. And I was watching a live stream the other day, and he was talking about how I think he's in the process right now to go after the educational system in the UK, where he's from, to like legally, what's the word? Not question, but legally challenge whether or not the heliocentric model that they're teaching is actually grounded in facts. Mm-hmm. And from what I heard, they're serious. Sleeping Warrior Anthony Riley, right there in the chat, they're serious. They're going to go like challenge. There he goes. He says we are indeed going to challenge the evidence for globe in court. So they're serious. Like, they're taking this shit to court. They're going all in. And from what I heard recently, Sleeping Warrior was saying that there's even legal precedent in the UK for getting the school system, the educational system, to basically question what they're currently being taught. It had to do with global warming, I believe. Mm-hmm. I think the schools were basically saying global warming is real. If you question it, you're a racist. And so there was no alternative perspective being offered in the schools surrounding global warming. And apparently, I think the judge ruled in favor of the people who were saying, no, you have to show the other side of the global warming argument. There's actually an other side to the argument that's valid, grounded in science, and it's not just a bunch of anti-science people. There actually is a good alternative argument to the global warming thing. And apparently the judge ruled in their favor. So there's legal precedent for judges to actually rule, and who knows, it might end up working in favor of Sleeping Warrior here. He also says, what did he write down here? He says, Sleeping Warrior says, I have a degree in law with a postgraduate diploma in legal practice and currently completing my master's in law. The evidence for a spinning ball would never get someone in jail. So, fascinating. Sleeping Warrior also says, S.406 Education Act 1996 outlaws the indoctrination of children with, quote, promotion of partisan politics. The Dimmock case of 2007 established the way the law will operate. So that's the legal precedence he was talking about, I think.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, the partisan politics in post-secondary education today, well, all education, is out of control. It's fucking out of control. Which is why I don't trust, and which is why my own son, I'm already telling him now, like, once you graduate high school in Canada, you're not going to post-secondary here. You're gonna go to Asia and take your post-secondary, where he's from. Not here. I don't want him to go through that kind of bullshit. Anyway, do you got any other questions you want to ask, Chris? There, Lamprey?
I mean, I got just one more, but I mean,
Okay.
I don't really know if it's going to make that much of a difference at this point. I mean, I'm obviously not going to convince him, and he's not going to convince me. I think it's an interesting idea. It's an interesting concept. I have not done enough research on it to really formulate an opinion on flat Earth. I really don't know. I don't know what to say. It's good to listen to someone with a different viewpoint. There's no doubt about it, and I like how he seems to. You seem to be really passionate about it, which I think is fucking awesome. I really hope you keep running with it. I would like to see you try to maybe put it down on some paper, try to maybe cite some sources other than maybe just YouTube videos or something like that. And even though you say that you don't want to put yourself into debt going to college, you can just go to take 5 or 6 classes and learn a little bit about physics, learn a little about the solar system, and throw it at a professor. Write something down, tell him disprove this, disprove that, and see what the authority has to say to that, and see if he can debunk what it is you have to say and write.
Yeah, I think actually, ironically, I think Sleeping Warrior there in the chat, I think he's actually doing something very similar. I think he's I don't know if he's still planning to do that, but he was gonna go back to college basically, and I think at the end they have you like you have to do like a thesis paper. He was gonna do his thesis on how I don't remember the exact topic, but basically something about how the heliocentric model is full of shit. And of course, the college then has to make a decision. They could either say, "How dare you question the consensus? Well, you're not getting a pass. Your thesis is rejected," or they could approve it and say, "Well, shit, we can't refute your arguments." So, yeah, I mean, I don't know, Lamprey. Maybe you want me to go back through the educational system because maybe you're hoping it'll change from within, and maybe one day fucking flat Earth will be taught, and then the new authority will be fucking flat Earth shit. But I just don't see the point. It's pointless, man. Like, I think if you want to learn stuff because you're passionate about it and you actually want to understand it, just because you want to understand it, you don't have to go to college to do it for grades and all these secondary or underlying motives that people go to college for. So, I just don't see the point, to be honest, man.
All right.
All right. Well, what was your last point you wanted to make there, Lamprey?
Oh, the shit. What the hell? Oh, radio frequencies bouncing when they, because the Earth is apparently a sphere, is that they don't travel straight. They bounce off the surface and go off into outer space, which is why I Love Lucy is floating out there somewhere.
By the way, was that one of the ones that was written down in the comment?
Yeah, it's like a line of sight propagation, the 50 megahertz rule.
Yeah, I think I've heard of that. I think it also has something to do with. I think there's like a corollary argument about, what's it called, Doppler radars and how the Doppler works. And to be honest with you, I don't know shit about that. So you got me, bro. You got me.
Yeah. Well, there's one thing that you mentioned in one of your last videos, Chris, that I had brought up in our first conversation, was the difference between evidence when considering the shape of the world we live in, is you got two directions to look, down or up.
Oh
And
yeah.
You want to kind of go over that, what you were saying about that?
Yeah, that's a big one. Um, yeah, I mean, basically, um, you have you have a bunch of so-called evidence that they throw at us. Basically, all the stuff that's in space, satellites, and pictures that satellites are taking, and the China probe lands on the moon, some absurd, ridiculous bullshit, and in fact, uh, I think you kind of said it last time. You said that we kind of we can't uh, we can't prove any of that stuff, and that's a really good point because how do you prove all that stuff? You have all this stuff that's unfalsifiable, and that's sort of ironic because it's almost like the go-to best evidence, like the best evidence Globers go to is the one thing we can't prove, we can't check, we can't validate, we can't verify. It's almost like exactly the kind of evidence you would point to if they were hiding something about it, so you can't actually verify it for yourself. So yeah, like I've said recently, and like you said last time, we can take things down to earth with the evidence. Let's not talk about stuff we can't prove or falsify. Let's talk about stuff. Look, we live on a fucking ball. There should be down to earth proof we live on a ball.
Yes.
And there are ways to test it. Simple stuff, long distance observations, things hidden behind curvature. That's been completely blown wide open. It's disgraceful. So yeah, bring it down to earth. Let's talk about evidence we can check, test, and verify for ourselves.
Yes. Yeah, and that's kind of the thing. When you had your video about the National Geographic, and by the way, that video got dropped. Your name got dropped by Jaronism because of that video, and basically in that video, National Geographic goes, "Here's a boat. We're going to float it out. All right, they're going to do it. They're going to do some experiment that can be verified, that anybody can do. They're not throwing us a fake picture of a satellite. They're like, okay, look, we're gonna film this. We're gonna go out. We're gonna watch this boat go off into the distance, and then you're gonna see. Basically, they're gonna say you're gonna see the sail of the boat disappear slowly from the bottom up. But then there was that one point in the video where it was mentioned that they were gonna do another experiment with balloons. Was it?
Yeah, like helium type big ass helium balloons.
Right. So they had balloons on the other side of the lake, and they were gonna raise them up, and then as evidence, they'd be like, okay, you can't see them now, but as we raise them, they'll go over the curve and you'll see them, and they totally cut that out of the video.
Yeah, they cut it out, and 6 months before National Geographic released the hit piece, which they released it just a couple days ago, but like 6 months before that, because they'd filmed it months earlier, National Geographic, or rather Flat Earthers who were on the scene filming the whole thing, they released footage that they'd captured with their own cameras, showing their Flat Earth buddies on the other side of the lake, saying they could see the balloons through the cameras they were zooming in with. And one of the Globe guys on the scene was like, "Oh, there's no way he could see it because the balloons are hidden behind the curvature." So basically it's like this cognitive dissonance things where the guy simply, because he's so convinced he lives on a globe and the balloons cannot possibly be hidden, he refused to accept that they were actually seeing it. But I even think there's footage from the camera zooming in showing the damn things on film. So it's just typical mainstream media hit pieces, man. That's what they do. It's nothing new. They did it with Trump 2016. The mainstream media just lie because they know the average viewer watching television is a zombie. So they know they can just get away with anything. So it's just what they always do. Nothing surprising, and that's probably why every flat earther on the scene. That's. Are you guys getting feedback?
Just a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, that's why every flat earther on the scene had a camera on hand just to make sure in case there were shenanigans. And look, it turns out there was plenty of shenanigans. Why would they cut out half the experiment?
Yeah.
In fact, I would say that weather balloon experiment was way more elaborate and interesting than some dude on a fucking raft holding a poster.
Yes.
like what the fuck are you doing? Like, I hope you had that poster secured tightly to the raft. I hope it wasn't just in his hand bouncing up and down. Like, what a joke.
Yeah. No, but and again, that this is just to kind of round off what we were discussing is like that kind of shenanigans. They're hiding shit, man. I mean, they're not being transparent with anything they do. They will offer you evidence that comes from hundreds of thousands of miles above you, where nobody can go and test. Nobody can test it. Nobody can verify it. They have a monopoly on that information. And then when it comes down to the evidence on the Earth that we can all witness and verify and do our own experiments, they lie. If the ball's real, why do you got to do that? I don't understand.
Yeah, what's the benefit of them lying though? That's really my biggest argument against flat earthers is why. What purpose does it serve? I can understand a little bit with the moon, but as far as the flat Earth, I don't really get it. Can you sum up that for me?
Yeah, well, let's. I'll have Chris. You can answer that, and you did answer that in the last talk, but we might as well kind of just top it off with your answer to that, and then we'll kind of put it down for the night. Chris?
Oh,
Sorry about that. Can you
it's
hear
all
me?
right.
Yeah. We can hear you.
I had muted because of some weird feedback. Okay, yeah, I give two answers for that. The first answer is for the uninitiated to this topic because I don't want to scare them away. The first answer, down to earth, very easy to accept. It's the one I said last time. Very simple. The reason they would lie, quite simple. We believe we live on a sphere long before we had any proof.
Mm-hmm.
They decided to go to the moon, got in a rocket, and if they went up there and it turns out the Earth was not a globe, then actually no. Actually, simply, what if they faked the moon landing just because they were in the space race with Russia? And what more motive do you need? So they faked the moon landing, and then once you say it looks like a globe, you can't. 10 years later, when you actually do go to the moon, and it turns out it's not a globe like you said it was, the government's not going to be like, oops, it turns out it's flat, and we lied about the first moon landing. So they can never tell us the truth if they lied the first time. So if you think there's good enough of a motive to lie just because they're in the space race with Russia, then that means everything NASA does thereafter has to corroborate with the original fakery. Anything that's too different in terms of how the moon looks or how the Earth looks, anything that's too different literally will expose them. It'll expose the original one as a fraud or the new subsequent ones as a fraud because there's an inconsistency. That's the down-to-earth one. I'm starting to think lately that the reason they're lying about this is because this is a satanic evil system we live in. It's a satanic evil system. It turns out most of the die-hard defenders of the globe are hardcore atheists. Atheists love Satan. They love partnering with Satanists, and they don't like this. The spinning space ball is the ultimate wet dream for a godless atheist Satanist. The spinning space ball, lump it in with evolution. Now let me plug.
There's some static going on. Is that?
Yeah, let me unplug my mic, plug it back in. Hold up.
Yeah, I hear a little something.
Okay.
I don't know if that's any better, but
Okay, try it. Yeah, it sounds better. Anyways, continue.
yeah. So yeah, it's just like you got the evolution. Then you throw that one in with the heliocentric model. I just think, and then when you start talking about, like I was saying earlier, that 3.5 hour long presentation that this YouTuber did, going into the details about how the rate at which things disappear bottom up due to the way your eyes work very closely matches the rate at which things disappear over the so-called radius of our Earth. It's too smart a lie. It's too big, too smart a deception for me to think it was just mere mortals who came up with this. That or some smart-ass motherfuckers from thousands of years ago. But I don't know which one is which. But So sometimes I wonder if there's greater spiritual forces at work here, and it's just it. So yeah, I think there's something way deeper going on here, and why would they lie? I think it might be a combination of the two options I just gave. So yeah,
I would agree with you, and I'd like to kind of close too with my opinion on that, and my channel. My channel, we talk a lot of red pill stuff. We've started to dabble into the flat earth stuff. Thanks to Chris coming on the show these last couple times for the talk. It's great. I've been dying to talk about it, but it's been hard to find people to talk about it with. But not only that, as far as them lying to us is concerned, the first thing I say to people is, why does anybody lie? Why do any of us lie? There's always a reason. There's always a motive to lie. It could be a white lie. Maybe you need to go to work. You don't want to go to work, so you tell them you're sick. There's always a motive to lie. So to ask the question, why lie, to me is a little strange, because human beings always lie. They lie all the time, and there's 1,000 different reasons for us to lie. But if you want to take that into the experience of a grand conspiracy of lies, in other words, they're lying to us about the world that we live in, I honestly have to go back to my roots, my understanding and my studies of religion, because if the earth is flat and it has an edge and a bare that you cannot go beyond, if we're in some kind of contained world, then there's a creator. It's that simple. It's undeniable. So to me, the reason they lie, and again, back to my history of studying religion, the reason they're lying is because they're trying to hide the creator from you. They have an agenda, and that's why they're doing it. They've made a commitment a long time ago to hide the creator from you. You're nothing. You came from the ass of a monkey, from a grand explosion, so long ago that we can't even comprehend the time, and we're moving so fast you can't comprehend the speeds. It's like a magic spell, is what's happening, and that's what I think that's what I think their motive is. They're trying to hide who you really are and where you come from. Pretty simple.
Isn't Baphomet a tranny? And
Yes.
I'm saying this as an appeal to Lamprey, because I don't think he's a fan of the tranny agenda. But Baphomet, that portrait of Satan, Baphomet, apparently that's a tranny. So maybe the tranny agenda is coming from the Satan agenda, and the Satan agenda is also responsible for the heliocentric agenda. So maybe it all goes hand in hand or something.
I believe it. I mean, honestly, I think that's their agenda is this. They made a commitment. They made a promise to our creator that they're going to turn everyone against God. That's their whole plan. It's the arrogance. It's the absolute arrogance of these people. And that's what I believe. You guys don't have to agree with what I believe, but that's what I believe from my experience and what I've understood to be true. And that's why I think they're lying. So there it is.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I think that's a really good potential explanation. Like, I've been thinking that more and more every day. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well,
women are the biggest lie. Never forget that, boys.
What is?
Women.
Oh, they're the biggest liars or the biggest lies?
Liars.
Oh. Nice way to round off the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Women are the biggest liars. If you take anything away from this show, that is it. I want to say thank you to everybody that came in to watch. We had almost 150 viewers today, which is much more than we usually get. A lot of that is thanks to Chris to come on again. He advertised the show. Hello, Helioskeptic says this was an awesome talk. Great, appreciate it. That's the goal. That's the goal of this show, is to have awesome talks.
Yeah, great having you on again, man. It was good.
Yeah, Lamprey, appreciate it. Thank you again. Shout out again for having the conversation. I am obsessed with this topic, and I know that it's not really your thing. So the willingness to talk about it is
God
great.
bless you, man. Go with it. I really hope you do something with it. 100%, all the way.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and and I want to say thank you again, Chris, for coming on, because like I said, I've been itching to talk about this, and I didn't know who, but now that you've come on, I'm very happy. So,
Great. Great.
all right, well, have a good night, and I'll say good night to everybody else. Appreciate it. I'm going to do a shout out to my moderators. Thank you guys, Warrior, Cartoons, everybody else that's moderating for me, because you had your work cut out for you today. God knows how many women made it onto the chat that you that you couldn't weed out. But that's all right, man. That's all right. All right, anyway, have a good night, guys. Thank you for coming on, and we will see you the next show. Cheers.